On my birthday, my sister gifted me a framed photo of my ex and said, "You never deserved him anyway." My fiancé looked at me and whispered, "Is that why he called you last night?" I stared her down and said, "You're about to lose more than a man." The room fell silent as she realized I had screenshots. It was my 39th birthday, a Sunday mid-September, just warm enough to make you second-guess putting on a cardigan. I remember because I stood in front of my closet that morning, turning over the same 3 outfits like my life depended on it. My fiancé, Bennett, was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through emails, barely acknowledging me. "You wearing the green one?" he asked without looking up. I paused. I was thinking maybe the blue dress. You know, the one with the sleeves. He grunted. "Yeah. Whatever. Looks fine." I nodded, brushing it off. He'd been distant for weeks, maybe months, and I kept telling myself it was just work stress. He was a partner now at the architectural firm downtown, and partners always had something on their plate. But lately, he barely looked me in the eye when we spoke. Something about that felt wrong in my gut. Still, I smiled through it. It was my birthday after all. I wanted to believe we'd make it through the weird tension like we always did. We made the drive down from Durham to Raleigh to celebrate at my mom's place. A small family dinner, as she'd called it. Just as she promised. Keep it cozy. The moment we stepped inside, I knew that was a lie. There were balloons. Cake from the bakery on Oak Street. A table full of food. The whole extended family was there. Aunt Cheryl, Uncle Howard, even my cousin Reese, who never came to anything. And of course, my sister Tasha. Tasha stood by the drinks table in a red wrap dress, sipping white wine and smirking like she owned the place. Her hair was pulled back in that too-perfect ponytail, not a strand out of place. That should have been my first clue. When Tasha dressed up, it meant she was preparing for a scene. We'd never been close. Growing up, it was always a silent competition, one I never signed up for. I got decent grades, built a business from scratch, and stayed out of drama. Tasha? She thrived on it. Still, I smiled and hugged her. "Hey, happy birthday, Mare," she said, the smile not quite reaching her eyes. We kept things surface level through dinner. I talked with Mom about her garden, Reese about her new job in Charlotte. Bennett barely said a word. He spent most of the night sipping his whiskey and checking his phone under the table. At some point, Tasha disappeared into the back room, and I noticed Mom looked uneasy, like she knew something was coming but didn't want to be the one to say it. I was in the middle of biting into a slice of cake when Tasha returned, holding a gift bag. "Saved the best for last," she said, walking over with a grin that made my stomach turn. Everyone turned to look. I wiped the frosting off my fingers and took the bag from her. It was heavier than I expected. I peeled away the tissue paper and pulled out a black picture frame. Inside was a photo I hadn't seen in years, me and Julian. My ex. Smiling. His arms around me. The beach in the background. My birthday 6 years ago. I stared at it for a second, confused. Then Tasha spoke, loud and clear. "You never deserved him anyway." The room went dead silent. Even the kids playing in the next room stopped laughing. I blinked. "What?" Tasha sipped her wine again, still smirking. "You heard me. You ran him off. And honestly, he was too good for you." I could feel everyone watching me. My heart started pounding so loud I could barely hear myself breathe. I didn't know what to say. My hands were cold. I looked over at Bennett, hoping for, I don't know, support. Something. But instead, he leaned in slightly, lowered his voice, and whispered something I wasn't ready for. "Is that why he called you last night?" I turned to him slowly. "What?" He didn't repeat himself. Just stared at me with this look, like he was accusing me of something. That's when something in me snapped. I looked back at Tasha. "You're about to lose more than a man." And then I pulled out my phone. See, I hadn't planned on making a scene. I didn't expect her to go that far, using my birthday to humiliate me in front of everyone. But part of me had known for months that something wasn't right. It started with a blocked call 3 months back. I never answer those, but the voicemail caught me off guard. A man's voice, low and familiar. "She doesn't know. She'll never know." That's all it said. I replayed it a dozen times before deleting it. Then came the weird texts, unknown numbers sending me things like, "Check her messages," or "He's lying to both of you." At first, I thought it was spam. But after the third message, I started paying attention. One night, Tasha left her phone unattended during dinner at Mom's. I took a risk. Opened her texts. That's when I saw them. Messages from Julian. Dozens. "You still think about that night at her place? I miss your mouth. She thinks I was at the gym. LOL. And one from her, she's still talking about marrying that Bennett guy. Poor thing doesn't know you and I were back in her bed 6 months ago." I took screenshots. All of them. I didn't say a word. I didn't even cry. I just saved the evidence and waited. So now, standing there, birthday cake on my plate, my entire family watching, I handed the phone to my mom. "Read those," I said. Out loud. Mom looked confused, then clicked through the photos. Her face paled. She pressed a hand to her chest. "Oh my God." Tasha's wine glass tilted slightly in her hand. "Mom," I said again louder. "Read them." So she did. One after the other. The room went so quiet I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. Tasha's smirk vanished. "Mare," she started. No, I cut her off. "Don't even. You came here with the intent to humiliate me. Thought I'd just take it? Not this time." She laughed nervously. "Julian was mine first. You stole him from me, remember?" I raised my voice. "He was with me. We lived together. You came into our home, Tasha. Our bed. And now you're standing here acting like I'm the villain." Bennett stood suddenly, grabbing my arm. "We need to talk. Now." I yanked my arm away. "Oh, you're not getting out of this." I pulled up another screenshot. This time a message from Bennett to Julian. "You're in a hole. You said you'd keep quiet. Now she's asking questions." I turned the phone toward him. "Care to explain that?" He stared at it, then at me. "It's not what it looks like. Then tell everyone what it is." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His jaw tightened. Tasha scoffed. "You always did like your men weak, Mare." "Funny," I said. "You seem to like mine too." I stood, my chair scraping hard against the floor. "I've got a bag in the car. I packed it this morning, just in case. Something told me this birthday would be different." I walked out of the dining room, the weight of a dozen eyes dragging behind me like chains. My heels echoed against the hardwood floor, that sharp, final kind of sound that says, "I'm done talking." Nobody followed. Not right away. I got outside and stood in the driveway for a moment, breathing in that early autumn air, sharp and clean like truth. The sun had just dipped, and the sky was doing that dusky orange thing, fading into gray at the edges. I should have felt sad or angry or something dramatic, but I mostly felt tired. I unlocked my car, popped the trunk, and pulled out my overnight bag. I'd packed light, just clothes, phone charger, toothbrush. I didn't know if I'd need it. Part of me hoped I wouldn't. Part of me prayed that the whispers in my gut were wrong. They weren't. The front door opened behind me, slow and careful. I didn't even turn around. "You're just leaving?" Bennett's voice. Quiet, like he didn't want anyone else to hear. "I'm doing what I should have done months ago," I said, zipping my bag. He stepped closer. "Mare, don't do this out here." "Why not?" I finally looked at him. Tasha made a show inside. Why can't I do the same outside? He sighed, ran a hand down his face. "I made a mistake." I gave him a long blank stare. "Which one? Sleeping with my sister, or letting her humiliate me with it on my birthday?" "I didn't sleep with her," he said, eyes darting. "Right," I scoffed. "So the messages were fake?" He looked like he wanted to say yes, but he knew better. "I didn't think it meant anything," he muttered. "It just happened." God, that was worse. That was so much worse. I crossed my arms. "You think that makes it better? You didn't mean to hurt me, so what, it just cancels out. Do you know how long I defended you? Even when you started acting weird, quiet, cold, I thought you were just stressed. I gave you so much room to figure it out." "Meryl," no, I held up a hand. "Let me finish. I trusted you. And you let me walk around, sleep beside you, plan a wedding, while you were texting my ex and laughing about me with my own sister." He shook his head. "Julian started it." I laughed. Sharp, humorless. "Oh, of course he did. You just tripped and fell into betrayal." He looked away, jaw tight. "You were never over him." I blinked. "Excuse me. You talked about him," he snapped, finally letting some of the bitterness spill out. "You acted like you were done, but you brought him up. The way he left. The way he cheated. I always felt like I was the replacement." I was stunned silent for a moment. "So you got back at me by proving I never should have trusted either of you?" He didn't answer. That told me everything I needed to know. "I never said you were a replacement," I said, voice low. "I said I was healing. You knew what you were walking into." He opened his mouth, but the door swung open again before he could speak. "Tasha." "Of course." She stood at the edge of the porch, arms folded. No wine glass this time. Just that same smug expression she'd worn inside. "Are you done pretending to be the victim yet?" she called. Bennett turned to her, face dark. "Not the time, Tasha." She walked down the steps slowly, heels clicking like she was on a damn runway. "Oh, please. What's she gonna do? Cry and post about it online?" She rolled her eyes. "You act like you're some saint, Mare, but you've always had to stick up your ass. Everything had to be your way. Your business, your timeline, your wedding colors. No wonder people get tired of you." I looked her dead in the face. "You really want to do this out here? Fine. Let's go. She stopped walking. The fake confidence faltered. Just a crack. I've got more than screenshots, I said. I've got voicemails, Tasha. Videos. You think Julian was being slick? He recorded everything. Probably thought he'd use it to screw you over if he got bored. Tasha's mouth opened slightly. You're bluffing. I unlocked my phone, tapped a few times, and played a clip. Julian's voice slurred and smug. Tasha thinks she's running the show. If she knew I was still texting Mare, she'd lose her mind. Gotta love sisters fighting over you, though. Her face went white. You sent me a framed photo of my ex, I said, stepping toward her. On my birthday. In front of my fiancé, who you also screwed. And you thought you'd walk away clean. You're just jealous he wanted me, she shouted, the facade finally cracking. Then it looked like he'd been punched. I turned to him. You still want to defend her? He didn't move. Tasha was breathing hard now. You're just mad you lost. You always lose, Meryl. You think you're so much better than everyone, but you're not. You're boring. Predictable. Safe. And you're unstable, I said calmly. Always have been. But I ignored it because you were my sister. Where, she repeated like it actually stung. I nodded. Were. And that was the last word I gave her. I walked around the car, opened the driver's side door, and paused. My hand gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. I could hear Bennett trying to say something again, his voice low, maybe an apology or another excuse, but I wasn't listening. Not anymore. I slid into the driver's seat, closed the door, and sat there, staring at the empty street ahead. No music. No movement. Just me and the silence. My phone buzzed. A text from Reese. Are you okay? Do you want to come stay at my place tonight? I typed back, no. But thank you. I need to be alone for now. I didn't start the car. Not yet. I just sat there, breathing, feeling the weight of everything. The betrayal. The loss. The numbness that came after the fire. And somewhere under all that. Something new. Something I hadn't felt in years. A sense that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of finally being free. I don't know how long I sat in that car. 10 minutes, maybe 20. The sun dipped lower behind the pine trees, turning everything a deeper shade of orange-gray. I watched shadows shift across the driveway, thinking about how many times I'd pulled up to this house expecting comfort, and how somehow tonight had set fire to every corner of that. Eventually, I started the engine. The hum of it broke the silence like a sigh. I didn't have a plan. I just drove. Down the familiar road line with oak trees and quiet front porches, past the grocery store where Mom used to send us to buy milk, past the park where Dad taught us to ride bikes. Everything was the same, but it all looked different now. Distant. Like memories from someone else's life. I wasn't even sure where I was going until I realized I was halfway to a hotel just off I-40. The one with the outdated neon sign and the vending machine that always ate your quarters. I'd stayed there once after a catering job ran late and the storm had made the roads a nightmare. It was clean enough, quiet, and most importantly, no one would think to look for me there. I parked, walked in with my bag, and paid in cash. The man at the desk didn't ask any questions. Just handed me a room key and nodded. Room 207. I shut the door behind me and dropped my bag on the bed, sat down on the edge and stared at the floor for a while. The silence hit harder than I expected, so I did what people do when they don't know what else to do. I called someone I hadn't talked to in a while. Hello, a familiar voice answered, cautious. Hey, it's me, Meryl. It was Shira, my old college roommate. We hadn't spoken in a year, maybe longer. Life had a way of pulling us apart, but she was one of those people who never judged the time between calls. Yeah, I said quietly. I didn't know who else to call. What's going on? I took a breath. Everything kind of blew up. I found out Tasha's been seeing Julian for a while. And Bennett, he was involved. I think. No, I know. And I walked out. Left. A long pause on the other end. You want me to come get you? She asked. The kindness of it almost broke me. I blinked hard and shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. No, I'm at a motel. I just needed space. You sure? Yeah. I think I just needed to hear a familiar voice. She let out a breath. I'm so sorry. I didn't respond. I couldn't say thank you or it's okay, because none of it was. I never liked Julian, she said eventually. And Bennett always seemed like he was playing a part. Charming, but like he was always watching himself perform. I gave a tired laugh. You always did read people better than me. You read them fine, she replied. You just give them the benefit of the doubt. That's not a flaw. That's kindness. It's just, not everyone deserves it. I let those words settle. She was right. I'll call you tomorrow, I said. I just need to think tonight. You got it. And Meryl. Yeah. I'm proud of you. For walking away. After I hung up, I sat there in that dimly lit motel room, phone still in hand, unsure of what came next. I hadn't cried yet. Not really. I'd felt the anger, the humiliation, the betrayal, but the sadness was waiting, just under the surface. And I wasn't ready to open that door yet. Instead, I opened my laptop. I hadn't checked my business email all day, and part of me craved something normal, something untouched by Tasha or Bennett or Julian. There were a few client inquiries. A small wedding request. A corporate lunch gig. One message, though, stood out. Subject: Food and Wine Carolinas. Feature opportunity 1. Opened it slowly, scanning. They wanted to profile my catering business in their next regional issue. Said they'd been following my work on social media. Asked if I'd be open to a phone interview. Maybe even a photo shoot. I stared at the screen, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. After everything, this was the message waiting for me? A feature? It felt like the universe reminding me, your life is more than this mess. More than betrayal. More than broken promises. I responded with a brief yes. I kept it professional, but inside, a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a while sparked to life. Hope, maybe. Or control. I turned off the laptop and laid back on the bed, staring at the water stain on the ceiling. The room smelled like lemon-scented cleaner and old carpet. Not glamorous, but safe enough for now. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I had to pretend. No performing. No fixing anyone else's mistakes. Just me. Just Meryl. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise, lying in that stiff motel bed, wrapped in scratchy sheets, listening to the low hum of the ice machine outside my door. My neck ached from the pillow, and my back wasn't much happier with the mattress. But somehow, I still felt lighter. Not good exactly. Not fixed. Just lighter. I got up, made the world's weakest cup of coffee from the tiny in-room machine, and sat on the edge of the bed staring at my phone. I didn't open messages. I didn't check social media. I just stared at the screen like it might tell me what to do next. And then it lit up. Incoming call. Mom, I let it ring. Voicemail. Then a text. I don't know what happened last night, but please call me. Everyone's in shock. Tasha's in tears. I stared at that last sentence longer than I should have. Tasha's in tears. That same sister who framed a photo of my ex and gifted it to me like a ticking BMB. Now she was the one crying? It almost would have been funny if it hadn't been so infuriating. But I didn't respond. Not yet. I wasn't ready to clean up the mess they'd made just because I was the one most likely to grab 'em up. Instead, I showered, changed, and drove downtown. There was a little cafe near the old market that opened early, the kind with mismatched mugs and old jazz playing too loud through overhead speakers. The kind of place where no one really notices you unless you want them to. I took a seat near the window and ordered a scone and another coffee. It was barely 7 a.m., and the street outside was just beginning to wake up. Dog walkers, early joggers, city workers, and neon vests. I watched them all and wondered how many of them were carrying a story like mine. How many had walked away from someone who betrayed them, or sat in a car with a packed bag not knowing where they'd land. Probably more than I'd ever guess. I was halfway through the scone when a voice broke into my thoughts. Meryl. I turned, and for a split second, I didn't recognize her. Then it hit me. Joe. Joe Lambert. We'd gone to high school together. Varsity basketball, theater club, the whole deal. We hadn't spoken in years. Not since graduation. But there she was, holding a to-go coffee and blinking at me like she wasn't sure if she should sit. Hey, I said, standing a little awkwardly. It's been forever. I'll say, she laughed. You look exactly the same. Like, weirdly good. Can I sit? Yeah, of course. She pulled out the chair and dropped her purse beside her. I saw you on the Food and Wine regional page a few months ago. You're doing amazing with that catering thing, huh? I guess, I said, stirring my coffee. I've been lucky. She squinted at me. You don't sound thrilled. I hesitated. It's been a weird couple of days. Jo nodded like she knew the tone. Life blowing up? More like imploding. Quietly. But thoroughly. She smirked. Want to talk about it or pretend things are fine and talk about local farmers markets instead? I laughed. Honestly, I don't even know where to start. She leaned back in her chair, sipping her coffee. Try me. I just got divorced last year. Caught my husband sleeping with his coworker in the back of our car. That I paid for. I'm good at this kind of conversation now. I stared at her for a second, then just let it spill. I told her about Julian. About Bennett. About Tasha and the photo and the messages and the damn voicemail. I told her about the bag I'd packed, the motel, the phone call I ignored from Mom. She didn't interrupt. Not once. When I finally stopped talking, Jo let out a low whistle. Wow. Yeah. Have you ever thought about writing all that down? Turning it into a revenge novel? I grinned. You think anyone would believe it? People don't have to believe it. They just want drama. And girl, you're dripping in it. We both laughed. It felt good. It felt human. You know, she said, finishing her drink, my cousin's organizing this women's retreat thing next weekend. It's up in the mountains, real laid back, nothing cult-wide. Just hikes, good food, women trying to UNFCK their lives. You should come. I raised an eyebrow. Is that the official slogan? Practically. I considered it. I haven't been around that many women since culinary school. That's because catering attracts people who like control, she said. This'll attract people who are learning to let go. I don't even know if I'm staying in town, I admitted. So don't decide yet, she said, standing. Here's the info. If you change your mind, show up. She scribbled a number and a location on a napkin and slid it across the table. And then she was gone. I sat there for a while, just staring at the napkin. Something about it felt heavy. Not bad, just significant. Like a fork in the road. My phone buzzed again. One new voicemail. I didn't recognize the number. I hesitated, then played it. It was Julian. Hey, I don't know if you'll ever listen to this, but I didn't mean for any of it to go that far. It started out as STPID, and then it got messy, and I miss talking to you. Not like before. Just, I miss how we were before we broke everything. Anyway, I'm sorry. For all of it. I didn't react. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Didn't delete it either. I just sat there in a coffee shop full of strangers, holding a napkin and a voicemail full of half-hearted apologies, and wondered what it really meant to rebuild your life. Not the Instagram version, but the raw one. The ugly, slow, unfiltered version. Because that's what this was now. A slow rebuild. One shaky piece at a time. The voicemail from Julian? I didn't respond. I didn't need to. A part of me was surprised he reached out at all. He'd always been too arrogant to think he'd ever be in the wrong. But there it was, his sad little olive branch, tossed out into the air like that would undo the years of damage. I let it sit there in my inbox. A digital reminder of the apology I'd never asked for. The napkin from Joe sat on my dashboard for 3 days. I kept moving it around, glove box, passenger seat, back to the dash, like I couldn't decide whether I wanted to keep it or pretend it never showed up. Then Friday morning hit, and I woke up before my alarm, heart pounding. No nightmare. Just the kind of nervous energy you get when your gut knows something has to change. So I packed up the car, got coffee from the little shop downtown, and headed into the mountains. The retreat was better than I expected. No weird mantras or forced bonding. Just a dozen women who looked just as exhausted as I felt, laughing too hard over wine and campfire dinners, sharing stories that made mine feel like just one chapter in a much bigger book of survival. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel angry. I felt capable. When I got home that Monday, I was clearer than I'd been in years. I walked into my apartment, unpacked, and sat down with a legal pad. And that's where the idea started. Revenge wasn't about screaming matches or slashing tires. That's amateur hour. Real revenge? The kind that lingers? It's quiet, strategic, polished. So I wrote down a list, 2 columns. Tasha Bennett, and under each name, I jotted every weak point I could think of. Every plan I could execute with precision. I knew Bennett had just pitched a new restaurant design for a luxury food hall coming to downtown Durham. And I also knew the owners because I'd catered their daughter's wedding last year. I reached out, set a meeting, pitched my brand as the food partner for their opening month. Pop-up events, tastings, high-end catering. I knew exactly how to talk to these people. I talked about flavor, storytelling, local sourcing, and my grandmother's handwritten biscuit recipe. They loved it. Then casually I asked who was designing the space. Some guy named Bennett Walsh, one of the owners said, making a face. Honestly, a little arrogant for our taste. I think he's the next Frank Gehry. I smiled gently. He's my ex. I'd be happy to recommend someone who listens better. They asked for suggestions. I gave them 3. They dropped Bennett 2 weeks later. No screaming. No confrontation. Just a neat little email he never saw coming. Now Tasha. Tasha had been working her side hustle as an influencer. Mostly beauty content, random paid partnerships, nothing that ever really took off. But she had one big campaign she was banking on, a skincare company launching a new North Carolina line. She'd been talking about it nonstop since spring. What she didn't know, I was now friends with their brand consultant. Long story short, over a very casual lunch, I mentioned how Tasha once edited a photo so heavily she made a black model appear 3 shades lighter. I didn't make it up. She'd done it 2 years ago and laughed about it, saying it fit the brand aesthetic. The consultant was horrified. They dropped her. Tasha found out when the PR box she'd been bragging about on Instagram showed up addressed to someone else. No confrontation. No drama. Just a quiet freeze-out. I let time do the talking. By fall, Bennett's portfolio had taken a hit. No new clients. Word got around about his ego. No one said I was behind it. I never made a public statement. I didn't need to. Tasha? She was floundering online, posting throwbacks, talking about taking a break for mental health, but we all knew she was panicking about her numbers. I didn't even block her. I let her watch me rise. The food and wine feature dropped in November. Front page of the regional issue. Big spread of me in my kitchen, smiling with confidence I hadn't felt in years. My DMs blew up. Bookings poured in. I started teaching local workshops. Then a podcast invitation. Then a small contract with a boutique cookware line. And guess who followed me from a burner account? Tasha. Didn't even try to hide it. Used a fake name, but the username had her birthday in it. I let her follow. I let her see it. The final nail? I hosted a holiday tasting event. Invitation only. Caterers, food editors, venue owners. A real who's who of the local food scene. I sent invites to 2 of Tasha's former brand partners. Both came. Both asked about her. I shrugged. She's focused on personal healing, I said with a small smile. I think she's realizing not everything can be bought online. I didn't name names. I didn't talk trash. I didn't have to. My life was my proof. I built something while they tore everything down. That was the real revenge. Not the collapse. But they couldn't stop.